Put the cookie down!
Put the cookie down now!
They're all gone.
These two are looking for a Turbo Man.
Where's your Christmas spirit?
Hey guys, Everyday Aficionados here, Sean.
Miguel?
And it's Turbo time. That's right, we've got a special holiday movie review of Jingle All The Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as this dad who forgot to buy a toy for his kid. In fact, it's the hottest toy of the season, Turbo Man. So the last day before Christmas, he's running from store to store in order to try and find this toy. Let's get into this one.
So first off, I think we have to say, as a disclaimer for this film, we chose it because we grew up with this movie. I know I watched it a lot when I was a kid, and we both recognize it's a pretty terrible film, just from a basic technical standpoint, but still it has a certain element of charm to it. Its sense of humor is really quirky and cheesy, but it works in the sense of, you know, a traditional family Christmas movie, and it also does a few things that are kind of unexpected as well.
In terms of plot, it's actually a little unique for a Christmas movie, at least in my opinion. It really takes on that whole, consumerist aspect of the holidays and Christmas and sort of parodies it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a movie that's just celebrating Christmas. In fact, it feels like it's making fun of other Christmas movies for blindly celebrating the tradition, and it shows actually the sort of darker side of Christmas more often than it shows the traditionally happy side of Christmas. Instead of seeing families gathered together around a dinner table, you see hundreds of people crushing each other so that they can get a toy. Which is weird because it has such an inconsistent tone, because it feels cynical and satirical on one hand, and then on the other hand it feels like it's trying to be an uplifting Christmas movie.
And it does have, like you said, a bit of charm. The charm for me mostly comes from Arnold Schwarzenegger playing this dad who's really does care about his family, but is so busy with his job, and he really just can't seem to do anything right. And you do feel bad for his character. You do enjoy seeing him try and find this toy, going through all these chaotic events one after another, getting more and more ridiculous. But going off of the characters a little bit, I would say the acting as a whole, if you had to really sum it up, is really terrible in this movie. Even though I do like Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, it's not an Oscar-winning performance, that's for sure.
You couldn't have chosen a better actor than Arnold Schwarzenegger because he is such a bad actor, especially when he's trying to play a sincere character. You know, he worked best as a robot in The Terminator for a reason. But he works so perfectly because his acting is so cheesy and so bad that this is like a big budget movie, but it feels like a made-for-TV Christmas movie. Its cheesiness and its like inconsistent quality feels deliberate in a way, and Schwarzenegger's performance is really what sort of puts it over the edge for me. The way he speaks his lines, it's like he just read it off of a piece of paper 2 seconds before the scene, and he's just repeating it to get it done with. And it works. It's funny. It's hilarious. It feels like an inside joke almost among the film's production crew. Like they deliberately chose a bad actor for this parody of a movie because it would make the parody, all that much more funny and effective.
And that's what I think makes the movie work. It doesn't take itself seriously. All the characters are really over the top, like Sinbad's character, who's this really cynical mailman who hates the holidays and really hates this consumerist aspect of the holidays. And they really play him up as the craziest character in this movie. Whereas if you really think about what he's saying, he's the most right out of anyone in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his first rant when he's staying in line in front of the toy store that's about to open with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it makes more sense than anything else anyone says in the movie, and pretty much very accurately sums up the entire problem with Christmas and the toy buying culture and the consumerist craze culture. He's 100% right, and yet he's played off as like the crazy weirdo guy, and we're supposed to be rooting for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a guy who's trying to mend his broken relationship with his wife and his son by buying a doll.
I really like Sinbad's character because even though he is crazy, he does ground the film a little bit more, whereas the rest of the characters, they're really shallow. All they care about is getting toys and dolls. The mother character is just really poorly acted, and I really disliked the little kid character. I feel like he's always shouting his lines, and he's always just spitting off these lines that are from the Turbo Man commercials and from the Turbo Man show. He's like a walking product placement.
In fact, I feel like the two most complex and interesting characters are Sinbad and Ted. I feel like they have the most going on with them, whereas Arnold Schwarzenegger is pretty simple. And Ted is definitely one of the characters who's aimed more at the adults. I mean, it's heavily implied that he's sleeping with all of the women in the suburb. One of the reasons why he got divorced from his wife was so that he could have sex with all of these desperate housewives, because he's such a handyman and they all love him and all of the favors he can do for them.
I really like that Ted character just because it's so ridiculous and so over the top, and he's really effective as that like weaselly neighbor who you just feel you can't trust around your wife, you know?
Yeah, and in fact, some of the most memorable scenes are with Ted. The cookie scene is just amazing.
My favorite part has to be the brawl with the Santa Clauses in the warehouse where they're selling toys illegally. I mean, that's just so ridiculous, so over the top, so fun. I mean, Big Show as Santa Claus, you have to laugh at that.
Yeah, and going along with the Santa Claus thing, I mean, the movie has a really weird, semi-surreal tone. Like you said, it feels grounded at times, but then you've got a warehouse full of Santa Clauses who are making counterfeit toys. And then at the end, of course, you have that really horrible flying scene, which absolutely did not age very well. Special effects are terrible. But it's weird because you've got this inconsistency both in tone and theme. So, for example, with Sinbad, remember he represents kind of like the anti-consumerist voice of reason in the beginning. And then there's a scene in a diner later on where he's describing to Arnold how he became a loser mailman all because his father didn't get him one toy for Christmas. And it's like, it completely goes against the original message that he brought up and sort of the critique that feels like is happening in most of the movie.
Another thing that sort of grounds the film, at least for me, plot-wise, is the whole aspect of that toy of the season that every parent has to get for their kids. It's just a unique plot that hasn't really been done in too many movies that I can think of, and it's just really believable. I mean, because that stuff does happen in real life, you know?
This movie is actually documenting a real phenomenon in American culture, which is pretty cool. And also another cool element of the film that keeps it grounded is this idea of the difference between sort of the fantasy that's presented on the screen and then like the reality of what's behind it. For example, you've got the Turbo Man TV series, and in the beginning of the movie, it opens up with a scene from this Turbo Man show, and Turbo Man's so awesome. He's got the villain and everything, and they're all fighting, and it's just like Power Rangers. And then at the end of the film, when you actually see the people who are like putting on this production, they're like smoking cigarettes and they're late for their job and they're not doing things correctly and they're yelling at each other and making fun of each other and
ending up in the hospital because the Turbo Man suit malfunctions.
Exactly. It's really cool how the film actually goes out of its way to show the difference between real people and how they live their lives, and then like the fantasy that people are attracted to.
And another way this movie sort of brings you in and holds your interest is just because you really sympathize with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, we've all been in that position where we've had to find a gift for someone. Maybe we waited till last minute to do some shopping. We've all been there. And you really feel for him. You really want to see him find this toy, you know? And you're right there along with him for this ride trying to get it. Okay, so to rate this movie, honestly, it'd be really easy to give this a 1 out of 5. It's really not a great movie, and you could easily say it's a bad movie. It's a hard movie to critique for me because I do enjoy it, and it is the holidays, so here at Everyday Aficionados, we're in the giving mood. Like I said, we do find this movie enjoyable, so we're going to be a little nice with the rating on this one, and we're going to give it 2 useless booster dolls out of 5.
Nobody likes you, Booster.
I think it's fair to say that this is about an average Christmas movie. And if you don't take this movie too seriously, you can definitely enjoy it.
I totally agree. As you said before, it's a mediocre film in terms of its production values and in terms of the craftsmanship of its quality. But it has a real sense of character, and it does certain unexpected things and really refreshing things for a Christmas movie, and I think it does need to be commended for that, and I definitely had a great time watching it. So
what do you guys think of this movie? Do you enjoy it as much as we do? Do you think it's terrible? What are your opinions on it? Let us know. We'd like to hear them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And remember, whether it's liqueurs, movies, games, or beer,
if you're looking for reviews, you can find them right here.
That's the Everyday Aficionados signing off.
All right, 22 minutes. We are animals.